So now Chris Mellon is saying that UFO reverse engineering witnesses are testifying to government. This is amazing. This is a huge step. So let's talk about it. Get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. Please hit like, please subscribe, share on social media, and let me know what you think. Okay, so moving on, Chris Mellon is replying. He gives a lengthy reply to this blog post, and I'll link to it, and you can check it out at your leisure, but this video isn't discussing this blog post, so I'm not going to get into it. And in any case, Chris Mellon is debunking it, or parts of it. So let's just get on to what he says. I'm going to read his entire comment in full because I think there's some interesting stuff in here. Lots of misunderstandings and nonsense here about the role of the U.S. government and current U.A.P. legislation, Chris Mellon says. Stay tuned for the next unclassified report from the ODNI, which will affirm and further validate the reality of mysterious aircraft lacking transponders violating U.S. airspace on a recurring basis. So that's interesting. So we are going to get another unclassified report from the ODNI. I wish that he would give a date here. When is that coming? We're going to have to wait for a year since the U.A.P. report. Well, let's move on. Those claiming DOD is stoking the issue to justify increased funding have it backwards. DOD and the IC have consistently ignored and downplayed the U.A.P. issue. Ain't that the truth? You tell him, Chris. Hence the need for concerned members of Congress to compel DOD and the IC to begin collecting and analyzing pertinent data. Notably, a high percentage of the U.S. military reports have multiple sources of data, usually human and technical. Although civilian scientists and journalists are not privy to the classified data, those who are acknowledge it lends further weight to the credibility and legitimacy of the issue. Well, of course, anybody that's looked into it surely knows how valid the issue is. The first badly flawed USG U.A.P. report released in June 2021 mentioned 144 military incidents, yet not a single case was provided by NORAD and virtually nothing from the Air Force. Yeah, right. Yeah, where are these guys? NORAD is off shooting down balloons or whatever they're shooting down. First time NORAD has done jack, involving shooting anything down basically forever. And but they have been mum on the UFO issue. Same with the Air Force. Of course, why would the Air Force talk? I mean, they're the Area 51 guys, right? I mean, if the control group is in any specific agency, it's got to be the Air Force. Although I'm not convinced that it's confined to any particular agency. I think it's probably a multi-agency affair. Or transcending the very concept of agencies, put it that way. But let's see, move on. It also excluded undersea cases. He's talking about the report excluded undersea cases and those involving anomalies in space. Yeah, the undersea data is interesting, and it's lacking. They have, I guess, the submarine data is even more classified than the aircraft data, which is interesting. So I guess that hints at some vulnerabilities in our our technology if, too much was revealed. So that's interesting. And there may or may not be legitimate reasons for concealing that. Or it could be that there's just so much activity underwater that they don't want to alarm us. And that's entirely possible. It also excluded undersea cases and those involving anomalies in space. By May 2022, the number had risen to 400 military incidents. But we also have to remember that, my lovely Sean Kirkpatrick fudged the numbers a bit, and he inserted a bunch of cases that had already been solved and that had mundane explanations, for example, balloons, into those numbers so that he could say in the U.A.P. report that there were more explained cases than unexplained cases. So I'm not even sure if there were 400, actual incidents. But anyway, moving on. Still not including space or undersea anomalies, and still little from USAF or NORAD. I predict the next report will top 500. Again, without including any of the thousands of annual uncorrelated NORAD tracks from the mighty radar and space surveillance network girdling North America. Most incredibly, we now have a mechanism for Congress, and this is why I wanted to make this video, because this is where it gets interesting, even more interesting. Most incredibly, we now have a mechanism for Congress to determine the legitimacy of the allegations regarding recovery of off-world technology. What? Talking about UFO crash retrievals? Speak on, Chris Mellon. He says, I brought a witness to Congress who provided testimony on that topic to staff of 2 oversight committees in October 2018, and more witnesses have come forward since. So people behind closed doors are talking about UFO crash retrievals. That's right, congressmen and women are being briefed on UFO crash retrievals, and that is ongoing over years, and there are multiple witnesses and presumably multiple congresspeople. People like Tim Burchett and Matt Gaetz have been talking about some of this stuff, so we have a little bit of information. Matt Gaetz is talking about seeing images of U.S. military jets intercepting a UFO apparently in the air. So, he was a little vague on that. He said air cruise, but it seemed, and he didn't use the word intercept, but it seemed like it was an aerial event. He didn't talk about retrieving an object, so I assume that is not a crash retrieval, but an actual military encounter. And I've talked a lot about that on this channel. There are lots of military encounters, and we're working against some of the beings, and we're working with some of the beings. But we'll get there. As far as disclosure goes, way down the pike. So he's Chris Mellon has brought witnesses to talk about UFO crash retrievals. And he says others have been waiting for this legislation to be enacted, and other cases are pending. I don't know what cases are pending means. I mean, that sounds like a legal thing. I guess he's talking about the whistleblower protection. That's what I assume he's talking about, that they are waiting for this whistleblower protection to be enacted fully and for the protections to be in place. And then it sounds like there are people ready to spring forward talking about this the moment they can. And Chris Mellon goes on to say, I predict the skeptics are in for a rude surprise as more data becomes available. Thankfully, Congress has mandated continuation of the unclassified U.A.P. reports I worked so hard to persuade them to request back in 2017 to 2019. That will ensure, as nothing else can, that the issue will remain in the public eye, and also that the most sensitive surveillance atmospheric sensors made by man will be brought to bear in seeking answers to the origin and nature of U.A.P. Godspeed, Chris Mellon. So, anyway, really interesting, right? So this is Chris Mellon saying that congresspeople behind closed doors have since at least 2018 been briefed on UFO crash retrievals. This is huge. This is massive. So they have been sitting on this. Congress has been sitting on this for these many years. Was it like 5 years now? Come on, guys. You're the public servants. Pony up. Show us the goods. If it's classified, unclassify it. Blur out what we're not supposed to see. Redact names or locations or censor data, whatever you need to redact. But get us this information. This is supposedly a government for the people, by the people, and of the people. Well, act like it, guys. We're paying the tax dollars. This is our data. This is our information. I can kind of understand the control group keeping a lid on this because that's what the control group does. But the Congress is supposed to be particularly of the people. So there's really no excuse for Congress to be sitting on this stuff for 5 years. So anyway, that's my rant. But yeah, so good news. Things are going on behind the scenes. Congress people are being informed of this stuff. And one would assume that eventually they're going to start talking about this more openly. You know, we have particularly, Tim Burchett talking about stuff like this a lot. But not a lot. A few other people are. So we need to get more of those guys openly talking about this. Oh, and by the way, I should, remind any of you that missed it, that Tim Burchett said that he believed that some members of Congress had been compromised on this issue. I don't know if that's true or not, but that could explain their reticence in speaking out about this. So, just a thought. But anyway, overall, generally good news and positive progress, forward momentum. But again, we do need Congress to actually pony up. So, if you want them to pony up, give this video a big thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. That'd be awesome. Smash the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of future videos. Join me on social media. Facebook and Twitter links are below. I would love to see you guys there. And check out some of my other videos. Until next time, this is Jack signing out.